I had had a very unusual high school career. I went to many, many high schools. I went to almost 6 or 7 high schools, and this partly was substantially because my father was always moving, and I was finally at one point sent to New York Military Academy, and I was there about a year and a half, and various reasons, partly having to do with the fact that I was going to write the New York Military Academy annual review, the show, my senior year, and I wanted to do a book show, a show with a story, and at the end they said, well, we're going to do the typical kind of, boys with grapefruits in their shirts and, hula dancers, and so I got frustrated and I ran away from military school. And because of that, my father became very angry with me, and sort of when the idea of college came around, I sort of was on my own to figure out how to get to college and how to pay for it. And I knew of Hofstra, what was then Hofstra College. And in fact, my brother had taken some postgraduate work there. And I applied to the drama department with some of my little plays and what have you, and I won a playwriting scholarship or a partial scholarship and other benefits. So I was able to kind of enroll myself in school without my father's help, and that's how I was fortunate enough to begin my career in 1956 at Hofstra College. I had never been to a school for more than 6 months or 8 months, and if I ever had a school and if I ever had a moment in the sun, it was at Hofstra, and that's where I first had any sense of any kind of self-esteem, or that I could do anything, or that I had some gift that could be shared with others. And up until that time, I was just a low-achieving kid who flunked algebra. I discovered in my first year that all the shows done at Hofstra, at that Hofstra Playhouse, were funded by fees collected from the students as so-called, in those days, co-curricular fees. In other words, everyone paid $75 or something, and then that money was divided up between the various programs, athletics or theater. So in fact, the shows that were done, the big drama show once a year and the big musical, and then the various smaller ones, which were all directed by faculty members, were really financed by a student organization fee. And when I discovered this, I realized that the theater department was very vulnerable, because although it's well known that drama faculty like to go to schools because they want the promise they get to direct a play, and they did. And I realized that the drama department was using money that was really student activities money. And so I directed a play my first year that brought me a lot of notoriety, because in those days the students didn't particularly want to direct shows. They were more involved as actors and what have you. And with this big success that we had, I conspired to become elected the president of both the musical comedy organization, which was a separate club, and the drama organization, which was a separate club. The musical comedy organization at Hofstra was called the Kaleidoscopians, and the theater drama group, which were very different kind of kids. They were all girls, sort of like Isadora Duncan, and very very dramatic, serious kids. The drama group was called the Green Wig. So in my second year, I became elected the president of the Green Wig and the Kaleidoscopians, whereupon I combined them and made one organization, which was called the Spectrum Players, because we couldn't call it the Green Wig, we couldn't call it the Kaleidoscopian, because they were the factions. It was like creating a new country, And so it became called the Spectrum Players, which still exists at Hofstra. And whereupon I enacted a set of rules that basically faculty members couldn't direct productions that were funded by the student organization. And there was only one student who wanted to direct the shows. It was me. So since all the funds that were collected as a result of this, funded the productions. I suddenly then was in a position to direct all the productions. This caused a great consternation among the faculty because they think this. Firstly, they wanted to direct the shows, and here's this 18-year-old kid who is now the czar of the drama department. Meanwhile, during this period, the theater had been built. And despite this new kind of emerging in this way of a leadership position, I was a sort of a lonely kid. I used to just sit at night and watch them build the theater. It was a big hole. I used to go and sit on the big hole and fantasize about one day there'd be a theater there. And I really loved it. I knew this theater intimately. I knew the plans because I was part of my scholarship was that I was employed by the technical department of the theater, and it was going to be a beautiful playhouse. It was a wonderful playhouse. It was going to be a theater. It had an orchestra pit that would raise, and it had a fully articulated set of flies. It was going to have the first electronic light board. So this Hofstra Playhouse was going to be the ultimate expression of a beautiful 1,100-seat theater, and we were working in the gym. So I just as a kid just stayed there and fantasized about this theater and watched it be built that first year. And then I was able to work in that theater the 3 years of my career and direct any number of big shows. I did big production of Streetcar Named Desire there, and I did an original musical that was a tremendous success. During this career at Hofstra, I began to be interested in film. In fact, I tried to start what I called the Hofstra Cinema Workshop, and we had big notices in the newspaper. Those days, I think it was called the Flying Dutchman, and that we were going to have the Hofstra Cinema Workshop. And I was shocked that 3 people came. One was my girlfriend, and one was some other friend. And there was no interest at that point, say 1957, in film. Although I was starting to go see films in the nearby art house in Manhasset or what have you, become fascinated with the potential of movies.